In the wake of the Civil War and Reconstruction, the Texas Rangers underwent a radical transition that would shape their future for generations to come. Up to that time, ranging units had been made up of temporary volunteer citizen soldiers who served intermittently when the need arose. However, in 1874, they finally achieved institutional continuity with the creation of what came to be referred to as the Frontier Battalion. These units were initially tasked with their traditional duty of defending the frontier against Indian raids. Assembled under the command of Major John B. Jones, a diminutive figure like his predecessor Captain Jack Hayes, with a proven record of combat leadership as a Confederate officer, Jones quickly established a system of operations and administration of the force that helped ensure their public utility and institutional stability. Less than a year after the creation of the Frontier Battalion, the Red River War ended once and for all the threat of Indian raids in Texas. However, the law under which they were organized had also granted state law enforcement authority to the officers, who quickly shifted their focus to apprehending fugitives and assisting local authorities with maintaining law and order on the frontier. Cattle rustling, feuding, vigilantism, and countless other sorts of criminality were rampant across the frontier, where local authorities were often corruptible, incompetent, or both. The Rangers, who were not hampered by the jurisdictional limitations of local law officers, came to excel at tracking down and apprehending fugitives from justice. And no fugitive was more notorious in Texas at that time than feudist and cop killer John Wesley Hardin, whose arrest by Ranger Sergeant John B. Armstrong was perhaps the most celebrated fugitive apprehension of the late 19th century. Hardin was considered one of the most violent outlaws of the Old West, becoming a wanted man at an early age.
From 1868 and his first killing until into the mid-1870s, he becomes a fugitive. 1874, he kills the deputy sheriff in Comanche, Texas, and due to the heat the law puts on him, he flees Texas and hides out in Florida. John B. Armstrong brings to the scene a detective out of Dallas and puts him on the Ranger payroll and sends the detective named Jack Duncan down to Gonzales County, where Hardin had lived. The theory was that somebody in Gonzales County knows where Hardin is hiding out. Duncan, being the good detective that he is, intercepts the letter, learns that Hardin is probably in Florida, down in the panhandle of Florida. So Armstrong and Duncan get papers to go to Florida to arrest the most wanted man in Texas. He has a $4,000 reward on his head, dead or alive. They go to the county sheriff named Bill Hutchinson, and they learn that Hardin is on the train going to leave Pensacola to go home to his home in Pollard, Alabama, just across the line. And they make their immediate plans to capture Hardin. Hutchinson, a deputy, and a railroad official will enter the rear of the car. John B. Armstrong, with his cane, will enter the front of the car. That's the plan. John B. Armstrong pulls out his Colt 45 with a 7-inch barrel. Hardin recognizes that as a typical weapon of a Texas Ranger, and he yells out,
"Texas, by God!"
He had sworn never to surrender at the point of a gun. That's when all the action began. He somehow got the pistol caught in his suspender. Armstrong knocks him out. They get him out of Florida and take him back to Texas on the train. By the time they get to Austin, there is a big crowd at the Austin depot, and they do pick him up and carry him into the Travis County jail. He wanted to bring him back alive, and he did. He's found guilty of a second-degree murder, sentenced to 25 years, in Huntsville.
Hardin was granted a second chance at life through political machinations when he was pardoned by Governor James S. Hogg. Hardin returned to his violent ways and met his end at the hands of a fellow gunslinger. Rangers John B. Armstrong and Jack Duncan were awarded the $4,000 bounty for their successful live capture of Hardin, for which they were lauded in newspapers across the nation. Their tenacity and dedication to their law enforcement profession would continue to serve them well throughout their careers as they played their respective parts in the continued evolution of the legendary Texas Rangers.